Wanna ride with me, catch a vibe with me, go get out with me, yeah. Shawty, I'm a riding G, I'm a dying piece, I'm a ride.
Hi and welcome. We're going to do a cold and dark start in the Mi-24P Hind. And we're going to do it from a gamer's perspective so that you've got something to do throughout the whole cold and dark start process. Just going to use left alt and hyphen, bring up this menu, and we're just going to drop on some rockets. We're going to put on this HE frag AP one. Just throw that on the left and right, and we've got some weapons on board. I'll click OK. Now, while we're here, what we're also going to do is we're going to hold down the right shift and right control and C on the keyboard, and then left shift and left control and C on the keyboard. And you'll notice you've got this open. So if you didn't know how to open that, there you go. Aircraft looks really cool. So next, what we're going to do is jump in the cockpit, F1. We're going to get rid of the seat by left clicking here. I'm going to go down to here, and I'm just going to click on some buttons. So right click here, right click on here. Over here, we're going to right click on this battery to open the cover and right click again. Switch this twice until it goes into battery. Then down here, right click and right click so the inverter's on. Left click here on this blade so it stops the brakes. Now, while we're here, I'm just going to right click once here on the fans. Spin this all the way around. Spin this all the way around. And spin this all the way around. You'll notice that I will not touch this at the moment. I'm going to show you can do that after. Over here, you've got a red button, left click and left click, but this one we need to turn on absolutely. So we turn it on now, we hold it up, and then we let go. We've got to get all these now done. These are for the fuel tanks. Right click, right click, right click, right click, right click, and right click. Right click. This one over here, this is for the external tanks. So you can skip that one unless you have external tanks. Then right click, and right click. They're all done. We can go back down to here for the APU. We want to click on the start button that you can see here. So I'm just going to zoom out because it'll help me. I'm going to click on the start button. And you want to do it until this starts moving down here. It's moving, so we're all good. Then I'm going to right click over here until the orange light comes on. The orange light's on and we're all good. We can go up to here now. Right click, 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 right click. Right click, right click, right click, right click, right click. We'll skip this one because the warning sounds are pretty annoying, but we can right click on this, we can right click on that, we can right click on that, we can right click on that one. We'll go up to here, right click on this, right click on that, right click on that one. We'll go back down to here, we're just waiting for this to come free, so while we're waiting further, we're going to go down to here, right click on this all the way around, all the way around. And we can hit the switch here as well. We'll go back to this. And we're waiting for the orange light to go out. It should be any moment. We're just waiting for that orange light to go out. There we go. Left click once. And then hit the start button until the orange light comes back on again. So that's for the right engine. And it started. And that's all good. Then we're going to go back over to here. We've got a bunch of buttons here that we need to click. But before we do that, we wanted to spin this around so we can get the door closed. So we just want to drag this around in that direction. You can use the mouse wheel or you can hold down left mouse button and drag it downwards and then just close the door by left clicking on the big silver handle here on the door. And that door will close. So that's good. Next thing I want to do is just quickly bring the seat up. This here is the throttle. Right click on it and move the mouse upwards and it will increase the throttle. So that will do that. And then you can left click here just to get rid of it because we need to get access to this panel in the next few moments. So one thing to keep in mind, this windscreen wiper, if you do turn it on, you'll see it inside the vehicle, but it won't move outside the vehicle. It might be just because it's early access, but just something I've noticed, which you may notice as well. Now we want to go over to here. We're going to click on some switches. So right click here, right click here. We're going to flick on here, rectifiers, and down here for these two. And then we can close these covers. So left click and left click, and left click and left click. Go over to this side, we've got the APU. So we're going to left click on the stop APU, and we can get rid of the APU. That's all gone and done. And now we're going to start working on the autopilot stuff. So I'm going to left click over here, left click over here. I can move that back. Down here is a button, right click it once, and then down here, left click on once and left click once on that. You'll notice I did not turn on this one for the altitude or the yaw. I've just used the roll and the pitch. I've turned those two on. Okay, so that's what I'm using in a day-to-day basis with this aircraft. We'll show you how to get the weapons going once we get up in the sky. What I want to now show you is how to get ourselves in the sky, because we can. So I'm going to tap W on the keyboard, and that will release the brakes. So I just want to close cargo doors. So I'm closing my cargo doors, and that's all done and out of the way. You can bring this up if you want. Now, if you want to change this, left click once here, and then use the mouse scroll wheel, and it'll drag it down. And then you can seal it again if you want by just left clicking. So that's something you can do. We just want to get ourselves into the sky next. So what I'm going to do is just start giving it a little bit of collective. Just a little bit of collective. Pull back on the joystick. As you add collective, watch your rudder pedals and make sure that you're on top of where the aircraft is going and start reacting correspondingly. So that's what we're wanting to do. We're going to relatively take off where we are, pretty much. So we'll just keep adding collective here, and you'll notice we're in the sky. And now we're just hovering. So I'm just going to push G on the keyboard to bring that gear in. You can see the gear coming in. I'm going to keep adding just a little bit of collective. But we are pretty much away. Just start pushing ourselves forward now. We'll just gently come away. Now we want to start getting some of our weapon stuff working. Bit dangerous to be worrying about that while we're so close to the ground, but that's okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down to here, right click. Then I'm going to right click on here. I'm going to go down to here, just make sure that is on. Then I'm going to switch this on here, fire control, and also here on armed. So they're all the switches that I've done there. Now over here we want to fit this switch all the way up and then back down again. We'll keep an eye on what our aircraft's doing, because that could be important. I'm not sure if that's important to know what my aircraft's doing, but it could be important to just kind of keep an eye on it. It says down here. You'll notice a light will light up here and also over here. What we haven't selected at the moment is what weapon we want to use. So I'm going to spin this around until it's on rockets. So I'll try and zoom in so you can see what I'm talking about. It's on rockets. I spun that around until it's on rockets. And then you can hold down left control and W on the keyboard to get the weapon systems ready. And we can see there's a yellow light over here now, and it's saying rockets over here. So then we can fire, and you can notice I can now fire weapons. If you have a target in mind, you can sort of aim at it like so, and then you can push the fire button and it will fire the rockets at that target. So we'll try it again. And there you go, we've hit those targets. So that's pretty much how you can use the weapons very quickly. And you'll notice I didn't do a lot to have to get them working. If you want to, you can switch this switch on and this switch on, those two. That's all good. We've got rockets happening. And you can also turn it off just with that switch and that switch until you're ready to fire again. And you want to fire again, hit that switch, and then hit that switch, and you can start firing again. Just aim at the ground and fire. Now, one thing you might want to do, because it's firing a lot of rockets in each burst then, is changing this to something else, so medium or whatever you want to do it to, and then it will only fire one at a time, or you can say left side only or right side only. At the moment it's on both sides, so there's that. But yeah, there we go. We can see how many rockets we've got left. So I'll just fire two. And off they go. I'll try and get rid of all our rockets quickly. So I'll go over here. I'll find a nice spot on the ground. We might attack that little tower there. So a few rockets would have gone past that tower. And we'll head back to base. We'll quickly show how we can do a landing. So we'll turn this off now. And we'll turn that one off. And we'll head back over towards our base over this direction. Pretty cool. We can see speed down here. It'll usually have a number. We can see our altitude, and we can also see our speed indicated up here. This is showing our drift a little bit. We're not drifting anymore. We're definitely not hovering because we're trying to go full forward just at the moment. I have got the gear in, so there's that. We also are empty on weapons, so you can see that. I used up all those rockets, which is pretty cool. So we'll just head back to base. We're using the Tobii Eye Tracker 5 for this little demonstration. Looking around, no problem. If you want to control it from the front, push 2 on the keyboard and then push C on the keyboard, and that will give you control. And you can just start flying from here if you wanted to. But then you can go back to 1, and then you're straight away back in control in the 1 position. This only works in single player. If you're trying to do it multiplayer, it just won't work. It's a little bit annoying. I wish there was a way to be able to do that in multiplayer, but there just isn't. So it basically really pushes you to have to find someone in multiplayer to sit in that other position. So we're just going to flow over towards the runway. We're going to bring our collective back and bring our joystick or speed back. You can see we're relatively in control here. We'll just keep dropping gently until we can sort of get towards ground effect. And we're being ground effect now, so we're just going to keep bringing that collective back and keep bringing my joystick back. Push G on the keyboard to bring our gear out. There we go. We just want to slow it down, so keep going to bring that joystick backwards, changing the blades so that it just slows the aircraft down a little bit. We can probably spin over rounds because we want to park back sort of towards where we started. We're close enough to the ground to get ground effect here. The only interesting part we're going to have to keep an eye on is adding collective. So we're just adding a little bit of collective so that we don't actually touch the ground. You can see we're just hovering around here. I'll start moving back over towards this stuff. You can see there's a building over there. I think there's a nice big concrete area over here where we took off from. So we'll just casually go over towards that. Bring that collective back. You'll notice I'm bringing my joystick back a little bit as well. We might be able to land over towards that way. And then we'll start beginning to hover. So now we can see the buildings. This is where we wanted. We'll spin it around a little bit. Face back this way. And then we'll just hover. So you can see we're just hovering here. I'm just staying here stable. Not doing too much interesting. And then we'll just bring it down gently. Or we can move forward a little bit if we want. We'll try and line it up with the other group of seats. This other group of seats, and then we'll drop it down. Just letting it come down now gently. Tiny bit of collective, less collective, more collective, less collective. We're just hovering ever so slightly above the ground here. Now just let it gently come down. Watch that from external. And that's the hard landing, of course, that we done in the Hind. So hopefully you guys can land a little bit soft over me. But other than that, that's pretty much a quick cold and dark start with an example of how you can get some weapons going and fire at a target. I hope that helps. I hope that gives you something to do during the whole startup process and it doesn't seem so intimidating. Some of the things we skipped were just fire. And I've also skipped all the radio stuff because if you're just trying to take off and you're playing single player, that's not really essential. The first part is just to get practice flying the aircraft and taking off, and this will get you there. And if you want to be able to fire some simple rockets, well, you've got the basics down to be able to fire some rockets now, and you know that you don't need to do that during the startup process if you just want to take off and land and start practicing flying, which a lot of you may want to do. Once you've got that down, you've got the practicing flying down, then you can start looking for your targets and targeting them and changing different weapon types and stuff like that. But yeah, really, really cool aircraft. Do I recommend it? Absolutely. But that's just my thoughts on this aircraft. This video was made in the release week of the aircraft, so I'm sure by the time you watch this, I may know a whole heap more.
Отказала основная гидросистема. Лог Ри-65 исправен. Отказал насос расходного бака.